In the heart of the Zocthair Empire, at the edge of their most secured star system, something unusual happens. The Empire's vast network of sensors detects a singular anomaly. At the farthest reaches of their territory, a small unmarked ship appears without warning or explanation. The sensors initially flag it as a glitch in the system, dismissing it as a malfunction in the nearby cosmic radiation fields. However, the anomaly does not disappear. Instead, it grows closer, steadily moving towards the heart of their empire without a hint of slowing down or veering off course. The fleet commanders stationed in the sector are puzzled at first. It is impossible for a ship of unknown origin to simply drift into their space without being detected. They engage their immediate defense systems, raising shields and powering up the vast array of weaponry that had made the Empire the most dominant force across the galaxy. The ship on their radar is tiny, a speck in comparison to their massive warships and military might, yet something about the pattern of its movement suggests intelligence behind it, perhaps a rogue smuggler or a lone explorer from a distant world. No matter how insignificant they might seem, such incidents were often investigated swiftly and thoroughly. Despite their initial dismissal of the potential threat, the Zocthair fleet is not one to take risks. They scramble to form a defensive perimeter around the sector. It is a vast area full of resource-rich planets and hypergates crucial to the Empire's operations. They cannot afford to allow any unknown vessel to approach their most valuable assets. The fleet assembles in a perfect formation, their formidable flagship at the center, supported by numerous dreadnoughts and battle cruisers. They assume that this anomaly will prove to be nothing more than a minor disturbance ready to be wiped away with a single wave of their hand. The ship on the radar does not slow its course. It continues forward at a constant pace, no attempt to communicate or signal any peaceful intent. It is as though the ship is driven by some unseen force. Its trajectory appears deliberate and focused, though its size remains far too small to pose any serious threat to the Empire's massive warships. At this point, the Zocthair fleet commanders decide it is time to confront this unknown vessel. They send a message demanding identification and order the fleet to move in to intercept, expecting the unknown ship to comply and show signs of hesitation. However, the response they receive is not what they anticipate. The human ship continues its path, undeterred by the summons, as if the threat of overwhelming force is not something to fear at all. Instead of retreating or attempting to avoid the fleet, the ship simply accelerates its speed and enters the first of the Empire's defensive zones. The fleet commanders exchange uncertain glances and brief orders among themselves, quickly realizing that the anomaly is not a random encounter. This ship is headed straight into their most heavily guarded sector, without any sign of fear or retreat. Something deeper is at play. Perhaps the unknown ship is far more than what it appears. Perhaps the Empire has underestimated it far too soon. The Zocthair commanders gather in the war room of the flagship, their voices filled with both arrogance and curiosity. The fleet is more than capable of handling any threat, no matter how bizarre or unexpected. The ship is tiny, almost laughable against the might of their combined forces, yet it refuses to break its course. They are confident that their superior firepower will quickly crush this oddity. They've seen countless invaders come and go, and no one has ever breached the Empire's defensive perimeter. The commander's confidence only grows stronger when the ship comes within range. The sensors continue to show no signs of advanced technology or sophisticated weaponry, just a small craft with what appears to be primitive shielding and engines. The fleet's chief strategist, a veteran of countless campaigns against galactic insurgents, chuckles at the thought of a single ship defying the Empire's mighty armada. He issues orders for the fleet to close in and deploy their full firepower. The small vessel is about to learn the true meaning of Imperial dominance. With a simple flick of a switch, the Empire's fleet begins to unleash a relentless barrage of laser fire and ion cannon blasts. The shots ripple through space, flashing in the void as they streak towards the human ship. The commanders are certain that the ship will be torn apart in an instant as the mighty weapons of the Zocthair Empire rip through the blackness. The commanders lean back in their seats, their faces twisted into smug grins, anticipating the destruction of this insignificant speck of a ship. But when the shots reach their target, the impossible happens. The human vessel twists and darts through space with an agility no ship in the galaxy should be able to achieve. It weaves between the incoming blasts, as if anticipating them, as though the ship's every movement is preordained by some higher power or intelligence. The Zocthair officers watch in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the screen as the tiny human ship dances through the void with unparalleled grace, dodging each blast by mere inches, yet never faltering in its trajectory. The commanders stare at the screen as the human vessel accelerates into the heart of the fleet without slowing down or even attempting to evade its inevitable destruction. They cannot understand it. No ship should be able to do this. No ship should be able to avoid the full might of the Empire's firepower. Yet the human ship does not stop. It does not slow down. It continues forward, as though the barriers of physics and logic are mere suggestions to be ignored. Panic begins to seep into the minds of the Zocthair officers. Their superior technology, their unbeatable firepower, their well-trained soldiers have all been rendered useless by a single human ship that seems to defy the very laws of space. Combat their warships, each one a floating fortress, seem clumsy and slow in comparison as the human vessel moves like a shadow darting between them. Without breaking a sweat, one of the Zocthair destroyers takes aim and fires a powerful burst straight at the ship, but it misses by a hair's breadth, and the human ship retaliates with a shot so accurate it pierces the destroyer's hull, disabling it in seconds. A collective gasp echoes through the command room. The fleet's once unshakable confidence begins to crumble as they realize that they are facing something far beyond their understanding. This human ship is not just a fluke, it is a force to be reckoned with, and the Empire's vaunted supremacy is beginning to look fragile. The Zocthair commanders scramble to regain control of the situation, their screens flashing with alerts as the human ship continues its relentless assault on their fleet. The tactical officer's hands tremble as he tries to track the movements of the human vessel, but it is a futile effort. The ship moves too fast, too unpredictably, each maneuver a perfect execution of strategy that leaves the Zocthair officers floundering in confusion. Their vast array of sensors and tracking systems prove useless against this new kind of warfare. In a panicked attempt to contain the threat, the flagship commander orders a new formation. The fleet will surround the human ship in a tight net of firepower and force it to engage on their terms. No single ship can withstand a full assault from the might of the Zocthair warships. The human vessel will have no choice but to submit or be destroyed. But as the fleet moves into position, the human ship makes its next move. Without hesitation, it charges straight into the heart of the formation, as if daring the Zocthair to fire. The flagship commander's face twists into a snarl as he watches the tiny ship enter the kill zone. The Zocthair dreadnoughts are now surrounding the human craft on all sides, their weapon systems primed and ready. The command to fire is given, and for a brief moment, it seems like the human ship will be obliterated by the combined might of the fleet. But just as the deadly blasts are about to strike, the ship disappears. In an instant, the human vessel vanishes from every sensor and targeting array. Not a single trace of its location is left behind. The Zocthair fleet commanders shout in disbelief, their screens flickering as they try to regain tracking on the elusive target. But the ship is gone. Its sudden disappearance is more than just a lucky dodge. It is as if the ship had melted into the fabric of space itself, evaporating into thin air with an unnatural precision. Before they can even react, the human ship reappears just behind one of the Zocthair battle cruisers. With no warning, it fires its primary weapon. The blast hits the cruiser's propulsion systems, disabling them in a single shot. The massive ship lurches forward as its engines flicker and die. The crew inside scramble to regain control, but it is too late. The human ship fires again, this time hitting the ship's weapons array and leaving it defenseless. The Zocthair officers watch in horror as their flagship is forced to pull away in a desperate attempt to regroup. Their communications officer tries to make contact with the crippled cruiser, but the only response is static. The human ship has already moved on, now targeting another vessel in the formation. It is no longer evading fire or reacting to threats. It is on the offensive, systematically taking down the Empire's mightiest ships one by one. The fleet is in disarray. The once confident Zocther officers now feel the crushing weight of fear as the human ship moves through their ranks with terrifying precision. It is not just a ship, it is a harbinger of doom. Each strike is calculated and ruthless. The Empire's greatest warships fall before a force they cannot understand, and the Zocther commanders begin to realize something even more terrifying. Their invincible fleet is no longer invincible. As the chaos spreads through the Zocther fleet, the commanders are forced to confront a terrifying realization. The human ship is not just faster or more agile than they had anticipated, it is something far worse. It is intelligent beyond measure. Its movements are not random or based on instinct. They are deliberate, calculated steps in a battle that the human vessel has already won before the first shot was ever fired. The Zocther officers cannot comprehend what they are facing. They have never encountered anything like this before. The once proud warships of the Empire are now reduced to drifting hulks as the human vessel continues its assault. One by one, the Zocther ships fall. The commanding officer of the fleet tries to organize a counterattack, but it is futile. The human ship has already anticipated every move the fleet has made, and each attempt to regroup is met with devastating precision. The human ship moves like a phantom through the battlefield, appearing and disappearing at will, leaving no room for counteroffensive. It is as if they are playing a game the Empire cannot win. Panic spreads through the Zocther ranks. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's fleet is under direct threat from an enemy that refuses to fall. They have never known defeat, and the mere idea of a single ship being capable of dismantling their entire armada is a concept too foreign to grasp. Their strategic superiority, their overwhelming numbers, their technological might, all of it is rendered useless in the face of this mysterious foe. They cannot understand it, they cannot fight it. At this point, the Empire's high command is desperate to regain control. They issue orders to retreat, but even this is met with disaster. The human ship has already positioned itself between the remaining ships and the escape routes, cutting off every possible avenue of retreat in a series of moves that are as swift as they are precise. The human vessel now controls the battlefield. It moves like a predator in the shadows, picking off targets one by one, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. The Zocther flagship is now the only ship left unscathed, and it finds itself surrounded by the remains of its fleet. The commander of the flagship watches helplessly as the human ship closes in with a steady, purposeful pace. The Zocther officers try desperately to activate their last-ditch weapons, but they are too late. The human ship has already disabled their systems with a well-placed shot. The once proud Empire's strongest fleet is no longer a threat to anyone. The flagship now floats in silence as its systems flicker and die, and the human ship moves in for the final blow. The Zocther commanders fall silent in disbelief. They had once been the rulers of this galaxy. Their fleet had been unmatched, their power supreme, and now in the span of hours, it has all been reduced to nothing. All that remains is a wreckage of their once pristine armada and the undeniable reality that a single human ship has completely decimated their greatest force. The remaining crew aboard the flagship begins to realize that their Empire's reign is at an end. They have been outwitted, outclassed, and outplayed by the very race they had underestimated all these years, and there is no escaping the consequences of their arrogance. The Zocther High Command is in total disarray. Their fleet is broken, their flagship is crippled, and their once unquestioned supremacy is now a shattered illusion. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, the only sound that echoes through the command room is the soft hum of malfunctioning equipment. As the remaining officers try to understand how everything they believed in has been destroyed in the blink of an eye, the human ship moves with an almost eerie calmness as it circles the remnants of their fleet. It does not rush, it does not falter, it simply continues its work with deliberate precision. Inside the Zocther flagship, the commanders look at one another in disbelief, their eyes wide with horror at the realization that they have been completely outclassed by the humans. This is not the sort of defeat that can be easily shrugged off. It is a blow to their very identity, a challenge to everything they thought they knew about warfare and power. Their minds struggle to comprehend how a single human vessel could have turned the tide so decisively. One of the fleet's veteran commanders, a grizzled warrior who had seen dozens of galactic conflicts, takes a step forward, his face a mixture of anger and dread. He speaks in a low voice, almost as if to himself. He had seen many battles in his time, but nothing like this, nothing that could match the sheer ruthlessness and intelligence of the human ship. It wasn't just the ship's weaponry, it wasn't just its technology that made it so dangerous, it was the mind behind it, a mind that had seen the flaws in their strategies and used them against them. The human ship had anticipated every move, every countermeasure, and every attempt to fight back with frightening accuracy. The fleet's chief strategist looks at the screen as the human ship moves in for the final attack. He feels a cold sweat form on his brow. The human ship is now positioned directly in front of the flagship, blocking their only escape route. They have no weapons left capable of challenging the ship. The fleet's communications officer tries to send out a distress signal, but there is no response from the rest of the Empire. The human vessel has cut off all communications. It is as if the galaxy has been put on mute, and the Zocther are alone in their humiliation. The strategist turns to the commander of the flagship with a resigned look in his eyes. They are finished. The Empire's greatest fleet is no more, and the human ship stands as the symbol of their defeat. There is no hope for rescue. No reinforcements are coming. No allies can intervene. The Zocther fleet is isolated and outmatched by a single ship. The commander of the flagship takes a deep breath, his mind racing as he tries to think of some way to salvage the situation. But deep down he knows it is futile. He can no longer deny it. The human ship has won this battle, and with it a new order is being forged in the galaxy, one in which the Empire no longer reigns supreme. With a bitter edge to his voice, the commander orders the fleet to surrender. He knows there is no other option but to beg for mercy from the humans who have turned their once impossible might into something far worse than anything the Empire had imagined, a mind that could shape the fate of the galaxy in a single stroke. As the human ship continues to circle them, waiting for the final act of submission, the commanders of the Zocther fleet bow their heads in defeat, knowing that they have just witnessed the end of their empire's reign. As the final surrender orders are transmitted, the atmosphere aboard the flagship is thick with disbelief and quiet desperation. The Zocther commanders know that their fate is sealed, but none of them can shake the profound sense of humiliation that washes over them. They have never been forced to yield, not like this, not to a single ship from a race they had long considered beneath them in their minds. They are still the conquerors, the rulers of the galaxy, but now they are reduced to nothing more than defeated prisoners at the mercy of humans. The human ship moves closer, its silent presence looming like a predator closing in for the kill. The Zocther officers are unsure whether to feel relieved or terrified. They have no idea what the humans will do next. They know that their surrender offers no guarantees, but they have no choice but to submit to the human vessel's overwhelming power. There are no other options left. The flagship commander watches the screen with a bitter frown, his gaze fixed on the lone human ship as it drifts closer, its movements still calm and methodical. There is no sign of anger or vengeance, no demand for anything beyond the silent submission of the Empire's fleet. He begins to wonder if humanity's strength is not in their weapons or technology, but in their ability to understand and exploit the weaknesses of their enemies. The human ship had not relied on sheer force. It had broken the Empire's will through intelligence and strategy alone. A soft chime sounds through the command room as the communications officer activates the human ship's transmission beacon, and the screen flickers to life, showing the image of a human figure standing calmly on the bridge of the ship. The Zocther officers watch in stunned silence as the human speaks in a clear and measured tone, a tone that conveys a sense of authority that the Zocther had never expected from one of their supposed inferiors. "We are humanity," the human's voice rings out, "and we are here to claim what is ours." The words are simple yet carry an undeniable weight that strikes deep into the hearts of the Zocther. The commander of the flagship feels a shiver run down his spine at the realization that he is facing a race that does not need to conquer through brutality. They conquer through sheer determination, intellect, and cunning. The human pauses for a moment as if considering the next words carefully, then continues. Your empire's arrogance has cost you everything. Your fleet has fallen because you failed to understand one simple truth. You believed yourselves untouchable. You believed no one could challenge you, but you overlooked the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The human's eyes glance towards the screen, as if focusing on each individual officer aboard the flagship. The human mind, the mind that refuses to bow to fear, the mind that can adapt and overcome against any foe, and the mind that can turn even your greatest strength into your greatest weakness. The Zocthair officers sit frozen in place, their faces pale as they realize what they are hearing is not an empty boast, but a truth they now must confront. The human mind has dismantled their empire's finest fleet with an elegance and efficiency that no other species could have achieved. The Zocthair had relied on size and power, and yet it was the very thing that led to their downfall. The commander of the flagship tightens his grip on his chair as the finality of the situation sinks in. The Empire has been defeated, and humanity has proven that they are not just another race in the galaxy, they are a force to be reckoned with. The human ship hovers before the flagship like a shadow, its presence a constant reminder of the defeat the Zocthair now face. As the words of the human captain echo through the empty command room, the once proud commanders feel their pride slip away piece by piece. In their place is a gnawing sense of something deeper than fear, something that had never existed in the Empire before. Humility. It is an emotion the Zocthair have never known, but now it is all they can feel. The human ship does not make another move. It simply waits, as if allowing the Zocthair officers to digest the weight of their loss, as if savoring the moment when the mighty Empire's greatest fleet crumbles in the face of something it could not comprehend. The Zocthair commanders look at each other, uncertain, unsure of what their next step should be. They know their pride is broken, but the thought of simply surrendering to the humans feels impossible for an empire built on conquest and dominance. The communications officer hesitates before transmitting the signal back to the human vessel. After what seems like an eternity, the human captain's voice rings through the speaker, again calm and cold. You have two choices now, the human says, each word sharp as a blade. You can accept the fate that has been dealt to you and allow your fleet to fall under my control, or you can fight back and face the consequences of your defiance. The words are not threatening, they are simply statements of fact. The humans do not need to threaten the Zocthair. The reality of their position speaks louder than any words could. The fleet's chief strategist looks towards the commander of the flagship, his eyes filled with frustration and disbelief. They had underestimated the humans from the start. They had believed that their sheer numbers and technological superiority would always win out, but this human ship had proven that tactics could be just as deadly as firepower, maybe more. So the Zocthair had never known an enemy that thought so far ahead, an enemy that used every weakness in their fleet against them. It was as if the human ship had known their every move before they made it, and this realization has left the Empire shaken to its core. The flagship commander takes a long breath before turning to face the rest of his crew. They have no more strength to fight. They are out of resources. Their fleet is shattered, and there is no hope of rescue. No reinforcements are coming from the Empire. They are alone and vulnerable. They have no choice but to surrender, but that does not mean they will do so without one final act of defiance. We surrender, the commander says, his voice thick with reluctance and a hint of bitterness. The words feel like ash in his mouth, but he knows they are inevitable. The Empire's power has been dismantled, and their pride shattered in the cold vacuum of space. There is no room for resistance. The human captain's voice responds almost immediately. Good. The tone is not harsh or mocking. It is simply final, as if the human has expected this outcome all along. Your empire is finished. The words strike deep into the hearts of the Zocthair as they realize the gravity of the situation. Their reign has ended, and the universe is about to enter a new chapter, one in which humanity holds the keys to the future. The human ship lingers for a moment before turning away. The Zocthair fleet is now its prize. The Empire's greatest armada lies defeated, and at the mercy of the humans. A new era is about to begin, and the Zocthair can only watch as their world crumbles around them. As the human ship moves away from the wreckage of the Zocther fleet, the commanders aboard the flagship watch in stunned silence as their former empire's greatest military force lies in ruins. The Zocther officers sit in disbelief, their minds struggling to process the full magnitude of what has just happened. They had known for centuries that they were the dominant species in the galaxy, that no one could challenge their power, but now that reality has crumbled before their eyes, the mighty empire that had ruled through fear and strength had been defeated by a single human ship, and the implications are as terrifying as they are undeniable. The human ship's course shifts once more, this time heading directly toward the heart of the empire. The Zocther know that their once untouchable capital is now within reach of the humans, and they can do nothing to stop it. No fleet remains to protect it, and no forces are capable of resisting the human advance. Their capital planet, which had long been a symbol of their superiority, now feels fragile and exposed. Their entire way of life is on the brink of collapse, and they know that nothing can save them from the consequences of their failure. In the Imperial War Room high above the capital planet, the remaining leaders of the Empire convene in a last-ditch effort to formulate a plan. Their minds race, trying to find some way to salvage their empire, some way to reverse the tide of defeat that has swept over them. But the truth is undeniable. Their arrogance, their hubris, has led them to this point, and no strategy or weapon can undo the damage they've done. The Empire's downfall has come not from a lack of power, but from their inability to comprehend the true nature of their enemy. The human mind had outwitted them, and now the galaxy is witnessing the end of their reign. The human ship arrives at the capital world without resistance. Its arrival is silent, its presence unmistakable. The Zocther watch helplessly as the vessel enters orbit. Their once mighty defenses lie silent and crippled. Their communications are dead. The Empire's capital stands as a monument to their fallen arrogance, and all that remains is the knowledge that humanity has claimed victory over them. Inside the human ship, the captain looks at the sprawling capital below. It is not an act of vengeance, but a statement of purpose. The captain's voice echoes through the ship's corridors as they broadcast a message to the galaxy. Humanity has arrived. The words are simple, but they carry the weight of a new era. The empire that once claimed dominion over countless worlds is no more, and in its place stands a new power, one that will govern not through fear, but through intelligence and unity. The galaxy is now open to those who seek to build rather than destroy. The Zocther commanders on the flagship watch as the human message spreads across their screens. Their empire is done, their fleet is shattered, their capital is in enemy hands, and the future is uncertain. The message is clear and undeniable. The human ship has not only defeated them, it has reshaped the galaxy forever. The last remnants of their pride slip away as they come to understand that the galaxy now belongs to humanity. As the Zocther surrender completely, they realize with bitter clarity that the future is no longer theirs to control. It is humanity's time now, and the galaxy will never be the same again.